Hey guys, how are you all? I hope you all are doing well. Today we are gonna see an amazing what if story, but before we start, it's just a humble request that if you are new here, please subscribe because it actually motivates me a lot to post more. Also, the stories on my channel are fully written by me, so if you have any suggestions for what if stories, please let me know below the comment section. Now without any further delay, let's start. What if Harry Potter builds harem inside Resident Evil verse? Umbrella Nest Facility Record. Subject M001 Overseeing Scientist, Annette Birkin. The following are excerpts from relevant reports about the escaped subject. Report 4. Testing has shown that the subject's pre-existing telekinetic powers are triggered by strong emotions. We'll continue to observe. Report 23. Testing with M1's pre-existing abilities has concluded. We are clear to introduce the T-virus and begin testing the effects. Report 28. M1 has not only survived infection with the T-virus but thrived with it. It enhanced his pre-existing abilities and he has shown no cognitive decline. Report 45. He can communicate with the other sub-JECTs like Cerberus and the Tyrant T-001 that escaped 2 days ago. Not only that, M1 can command them. He convinced the Tyrant to go back to its lab, and in his presence the Cerberus acted like loyal puppies instead of the feral monsters they usually are. I will investigate how far his influence over them goes. Report 57. M1 is getting restless and tired of containment. He will pose as Sherry's brother in the orphanage for a little while so he can get out of the lab for a bit. He's still a kid after all. Report 64. After being allowed to see some of the outside world, M1 is more restless than ever. Sherry helps calm him down, but when she's not there he throws things around and tries to force open the door while sitting on his bed. The other subjects get more aggressive and restless when he's in one of his moods. I fear what he would be able to do with the power of all other subjects under his command as well as his own power. Report 75. The T-virus is devastating the nest in Raccoon City above. William's destructive mutation due to the G-virus and subsequent rampage gave M1 the opening he was looking for. He used his influence on the infected scientists to get a senior staff wristband to escape. There's no telling what M1 may be after or the damage he could cause. God, I hope Sherry is okay. The one with the escape. M001, or as he preferred to think of himself, M was excited. It was going to be his first time seeing something that wasn't the lab or the hospital or the orphanage. The scientists tried to stop him, but all he had to do was wait and the perfect opportunity fell into his lap. He felt bad that it took drive. William getting infected with the G-virus and becoming part tyrant, but oh well. M ran through the halls leading up to the sewers. Some infect Ed rats and toad-like things showed him the way out of the sewers. He offered them to come with him, but they preferred the water in the sewers, so he said goodbye. When he got to the street, it wasn't a NY thing like the view he got from the window of the orphanage. It was dark outside and there were cars sitting abandoned on the road. M could see the light of fires on the other side road and there were infected everywhere. As he walked down the street he felt a presence, like when the big guy escaped in the lab a little while ago. M followed the feeling and walked into the leg of a man wearing a bulky vest. Sorry sir. The man looked down at M. A kid. Where are your parents? We're evacuating people, you can bring them to the train station. I don't have parents, they died. M answered. The man looked sad. Everyone looked sad when M told them, but he didn't remember them and didn't miss them. I'm sorry. You can still get out though, just stay with me. I'll take you to the subway. M nodded and followed the man down the street. The presence was getting stronger as they walked, so M tugged on the man's pants. What is it, kid? There's a big guy up ahead, be careful, they're mean. Big guy. Then man didn't seem to believe him, but he put a big gun on his shoulder with one hand. At that moment a car drove over the edge of a nearby roof. A woman with brown hair crawled out of the burning wreck. A small distance away a hulking figure in a trench coat with a deformed face gets to its feet and moves to attack the woman. Crap. Kid, get behind me. M tucked himself behind the man's legs as he used both hands to fire a rocket at the creature, then a second one that caused it to stumble. The man threw the big gun aside and ran to the girl to help her up. What was that thing? She yelled. No idea. I'm here to help you though. He glanced behind him. Stay close, kid. Let's go. The man led them to a lobby and pulled down the shutter. The girl could stand by herself now. The man led them further into the station. M could hear them talking, but he was too interested in his surroundings. He had never been to a train station or seen a train before. He had only been outside for a little while, and he was already seeing new things. What's your name, miss? M tugged on her jeans pocket to get her attention. I'm Jill Valentine. What's your name? M thought for a moment and decided to give her the name he had before. The labs and that he used when pretending to be Sherry's brother. According to the scientists, it had been his original name anyways. I'm Harry. What's his name? Harry pointed at the man. I'm Carlos. Sorry for not introducing myself sooner. That's okay. They descended the last staircase. Harry perked up and ran ahead. So this is a train, he exclaimed. Carlos walked behind him and was rummaging through a bag while Jill ruffled Harry's hair and sat down opposite Carlos and another man in a red hat. You never saw a train before? Jill asked. I had toy trains, but I never saw a real one. Harry told her as he playfully swung off the standing bars. I haven't seen much of anything other than the orphanage, the lab, or the hospital. Harry hopped on the seat next to Jill. What lab? Carlos asked, and Harry realized he said too much. Nothing. I never mentioned a lab. It was a bad lie, but Harry couldn't think of anything better. No one looked convinced, but Harry hunched in on himself and looked away. The grown-ups let it go and went back to talking. The one with the filler. Harry tried to convince them to let him go with Jill to turn the power on, but they said no. Now he was sitting in the train station with Carlos, who occasionally radioed Jill with instructions or advice. Sorry, I know it's boring here, but at least it's safe, Carlos said to Harry after a couple minutes of silence. It's fine, I'm used to being bored. At least the scenery here is different. Your parents sorry. Guardians left you alone a lot, huh? Carlos said. Guardians? Harry asked. The people that look after you since your parents died. Carlos said. Harry considered it, tilting his head. I guess that's Drive, William and Dr. Annette. They're always busy with their experiments. And yeah, they leave me alone a lot. Sherry too, but it's alright when we're together. You still call them by their titles? Carlos asked. Should I not? Harry asked. They never told me not to. Sherry calls them mommy and daddy, but they aren't my mom and dad. Never mind. Carlos shook his head. Why don't you tell me about Sherry? Sure. Harry clapped his hands. Sherry is my best friend. She's 12 and she's the kid of Dr. William and Dr. Annette. She worries a lot, but she's fun to play with and she's nice. Oh yeah, and how old are you? Carlos asked, reaching out to ruffle Harry's hair. Harry, however, instinctively flinched back from Carlos's outstretched hand. Carlos freezes. That's not good, he thought, but tried not to show it on his face. He may not be trained in this kind of thing, but Harry's reaction was a massive red flag that some kind of abuse was happening. Pair that with the facts that he called his guardians by their titles and said they were away a lot, and it was painting an ugly picture. Carlos put his hand down. Sorry, I should have asked before trying to touch you. Harry shook his head. It's fine. Carlos looked like he wanted to say something else, but Jill's voice came from the radio. Carlos, come in. Subway power is up and running. Carlos got up and walked to a different room than Harry. Great job, Supercop. If you wouldn't mind setting the route at the control station, we can get out of here. I think I know where that is. Always one step ahead, I see. Go for it, Supercop. Carlos paused, then continued. The names William or Annette wouldn't happen ring any bells, would they? Prominent umbrella scientists. Jill answered, and Carlos cursed under his breath. Why? Carlos debated about telling her. It certainly wouldn't help her opinion of Umbrella. He sighed and decided she had a right to know. Harry, the kid, he said they were his guardians, and it looks like him and their other child, Sherry, might have been abused, or at least neglected. Those assholes. Jill said. We can talk about it more later. Over and out. The one with the derailment. No one would tell Harry what was going on. Everyone was on edge, and Carlos ran to the upper levels a couple minutes ago. They had tried to make Harry go to the other train cars with the rest of the civilians, but Harry threatened to just run away from the station if he couldn't at least see Jill and Carlos when they got back. There had been a moment when that creepy soldier Nikolai, Harry thought, grabbed him from behind and Harry's control slipped, making the lights in the subway flicker and the ones above his head exploded. Luckily it was brushed off as a damaged power line or something, all the more reason to get out of there fast, and no one seemed to notice how Harry's already prominent red veins had been darker for a couple moments. Harry looked back at Nikolai and the solder quickly wiped the calculating look off his face. Harry knew that face. The scientists had that face a lot. He had to get away from Nikolai, but at the same time he didn't want to leave Jill behind. While he was sitting in the train car with the older guy, Harry couldn't remember his name. Jill and Carlos came down the stairs. Jill walked onto the train car and Carlos stayed on the platform with a few other soldiers. "What's going on?" Harry asked. "Why isn't Carlos getting on the train?" Jill reached out to pat his head. Harry flinched at first and Jill paused but left her hand outstretched in a silent question. Harry eventually leaned into her touch and she ruffled his hair while he moved closer to her on the train bench. "Carlos is going to find more people to help. This group is going to escape and then maybe send the train back for others," Jill said. "Is it okay if I put my arm around you?" Harry nodded and hugged her waist while she put her arm around him. Jill ran her hand through his hair and was struck by how young he looked. Up close Jill could also see just how pale and gray his skin was. She would have thought he was a recently turned zombie if it wasn't for the lack of injury and lucidity in his eyes. His eyes were an unusual red and dark red veins spiraled out from his neck. His hair was gray on top and at the roots but black at the ends, suggesting his hair had originally been darker. "How old are you, Harry?" Jill asked. "I'm 7, Harry answered, practically falling asleep with his head in Jill's lap. "What did they do to you?" Jill whispered, more to herself than him. "They helped me." Harry opened his eyes and looked up at her worriedly. "My aunt and uncle were bad. They hurt me and didn't tell me what my name was. Dr. William and Dr. Annette hurt me sometimes too, but they tried to help afterwards and I got to meet Sherry. Please don't be mad at them." Jill stayed silent. How bad were his relatives that being actively experimented on by Umbrella was better? Carlos was right. As soon as they got out of here, Jill was getting an investigation started on Harry and the people who were supposed to look after him. The train pulled out of the station and Harry yawned. "You can sleep for a bit, Harry," Jill said softly. "You sure you don't mind?" Harry asked. "I can move if you want. And lose the heat." "No thanks, you can stay right where you are," Jill teased. Harry put his legs on the bench and cuddled into her lap. "Long as you don't mind," he mumbled and quickly fell asleep. Jill sat there silently with Harry on her lap for a while, listening to his breathing and the rocking of the train. It was just her, Harry, Nikolai unfortunately and Mikhail. She could hear what Mikhail and Nikolai were talking about. Strange how mindless zombies could ambush a platoon, Mikhail was saying, looking directly at Nikolai. Strange how the door was locked. Nikolai scoffed but didn't deny it. Before Mikhail could continue, however, the train suddenly rocked to the side violently enough to wake Harry and make Nikolai stumble. The four of them looked towards the back door to the train car. "It's here," Harry whispered. "Elle can feel it." Before Jill could ask him what he meant, the door opened and her question was answered. The brute that had hunted her before stood in the doorway. The burning remains of the other train cars and the civilians that had been on them behind it. Nikolai was the first to act. He ran to the opposite door and went through it. When Jill and the other two reached it, however, it was locked. "What the, Nikolai?" Jill shouted at the man. "Life is important and it's not me it's after." Nikolai smirked, giving a mock salute and running away. "God damn it, Nikolai," Jill shouted and kicked the door for good measure. "Kid, you need to get back here," Mikhail yelled and Jill turned. She had assumed Harry was right behind her, but he was at the opposite end of the train car, staring at the brute. "Leave them alone. They didn't do anything," Harry yelled at it. Jill expected it to just bat him out of the way like it had so many others, but it seemed to consider listening to him. It raised a hand and pointed at her, growling, "Stars." It was almost like it was arguing with the boy. "Abandon that mission, it's not worth it," Harry said. For a moment all was quiet. The monster seemed to be considering the boy. Then Mikhail jumped in front of Harry, pushing him back. "No, don't," Harry protested as Mikhail stepped in front of him. "Don't you dare." Mikhail snarled at the brute. "He's just a kid." The moment it lost eye contact with Harry, the monster was on the attack again. It used a tentacle to grab Mikhail and drag him to the other still burning train car. Mikhail held a detonator in one hand and a bomb in the other. "Get off my train, you shitbird," Mikhail said and pressed the detonator. The explosion knocked Harry and Jill to the flying and caused the train to careen off the tracks. It smashed sideways into the tunnel and rolled over. Harry had been thrown through a window when the train rolled over, but Jill had stayed inside. When Jill got to her feet, there was only a wall of fire and the roof of the train in the direction Harry had flown. It was possible he had missed the flames and being crushed by the train and the impact with the roof of the tunnel, but hitting the ground would surely have killed him. Jill stamped her foot helplessly. Another death to add to Umbrella's tab. She thought angrily and stormed off to get above ground and tell Carlos what happened. "I won't let his death be in vain." The one with the rookie in the Redfield. Harry woke to his head hurting. He didn't have any major injuries, his abilities made sure of that, but landing on gravel and metal wasn't particularly fun. "At least I missed the flames," he thought as he looked at the smoking remains of the train. He was alone again and the train looked like it had been sitting there for a while. Harry decided to follow the tracks to the next station. When he got to street level, he found the road flooded with crashed cars, fires, and infected. There was one non-infected though. A man in a blue bomber jacket and jeans with sandy blonde hair was running away from a group of infected. Harry ran up to the man and yelled at the infected. "Stop. Leave him alone." The effect was immediate. The horde stopped and began wandering off in other directions. Like they had suddenly lost sight of the man or had never seen him to begin with. "What the man mumbled, turning to look at Harry. "How did you do that? No, more importantly, why is a kid out here alone?" "I'm Harry," Harry said. "I don't know why I can do that, but I can." "Where are you going?" "Leon Kennedy," the man introduced. "I'm going to meet a friend at the police station. She's probably there already." Harry smiled. "Then I'll come with you. If you don't mind, that is, I can handle myself. I understand why you wouldn't want your friend around a dangerous freak like me." Harry's sunny tone faded away as he spoke, descending into mumbles. "Are you kidding me?" Leon said. "I'm not just leaving you out here alone. I don't know if it'll be safe at the station, but it's got to be better than this." Leon led Harry to the police station, but the main doors were locked. "I could probably break one of those windows." Harry pointed at the windows on the side of the building. "Great. Get in there and stay safe. I'll find another way in." Leon took off his jacket and put it around Harry. "Don't you need this?" Harry asked, trying to give it back. "I'm not the one running around in short sleeves," Leon said. "You can give it back if you don't want it when you see me again." "But what if I don't see you again?" Harry asked. "You will, I promise. Now go." Leon pushed right towards the window and took off around the corner. Harry picked up a rock and threw it through the first non-boarded up window. He cleared out the rest of the glass and climbed over the sill. His hands and bare feet were cut by the glass shards, but Harry wasn't worried. The cuts weren't bad and would be healed by his powers soon enough. A kid. Harry looked around his surroundings. He was in an office. There was a red crank on the big desk and a woman with brown hair and a red leather jacket. "We need to get somewhere safe. I'll explain there." The woman grabbed Harry's hand. "I'm Claire, by the way. Are you able to walk?" "I'm not hurt," Harry said. Claire gave him a doubtful look and Harry realized how dirty and beat up he must look. "I'm not hurt too bad," Harry corrected. Claire grabbed the crank and led Harry out of the office. They ran past a couple of infected and through a dark hallway to a metal shutter. Claire put a white tube in a metal box on the wall and the shutter raised. The two of them walked into a grand-looking hall. Harry glanced behind him and saw some infected walking towards them. "Leave the hall alone," Harry yelled at them. "What?" Claire asked. "Not you, the zombies," Harry said, watching the infected shamble away around the corner. "So you wanted to ask me something?" Claire thought it was strange for him to yell at zombies, but he was a kid. She shrugged it off and nodded. "How did you get here and what happened to you?" "No, wait, I never asked your name." "I'm Harry," Harry introduced himself. I was on an underground train to get out, but a big guy attacked and the train crashed. When I woke up, I walked to the nearest train station and up to the street. A guy named Leon brought me here and gave me this coat. A train crash. Holy crap, are you sure you're okay? I found some first aid sprays and herbs if you need them. One of the boxes around here probably has bandages too. Claire led Harry to a pair of benches in the middle of the hall. One bench had an injured officer and a computer on it, but the other was empty and Claire had him sit down on it. I don't need any of that, I'm just a bit scraped, Harry insisted. If you're sure. Claire knelt in front of Harry. Stay here, I need to get the last medallion for that device. She pointed behind her at a plaque under the big statue that had 3 indents, 2 of which were filled in a grate. Below it, it should open a way out. You can come with me and we'll find somewhere safe. Okay, Harry said. I'll wait and help you get out. Claire patted his shoulder and stood up. I'll try not to take too long. With that she left through one of the doors. Harry looked at the man on the opposite couch. He hadn't stirred and his whole side was red with blood. He had that look, that aura Harry got when someone was turning. Harry could sense the infected and the sense of the man was getting stronger as the infection progressed. You can't hurt Claire, Harry said sternly, and the man opened his eyes. What? You're almost gone, Harry said. I can feel it. And when you do turn you can't hurt Claire, or Leon. I don't want to hurt anyone. The man replied faintly. I don't think I'll be in control though. You've seen those things. The infected, yes, I can command them. I'm telling you, and what you will be that those two are not to be harmed, or I'll make the infect Tion mutate you until all you know is pain. Or I can make you impale yourself or blow yourself up, Harry said, his voice slipping into detached indifference. You're a weird kid, the man mumbled before falling back unconscious. Satisfied that his threat had been clear, Harry laid back on the bench to wait for Claire to return. The one with Birkin stage 1. Harry woke to a hand shaking his shoulder. He hadn't even realized he fell asleep. Claire was kneeling next to the couch Harry was on. Behind her he could see the grate had opened and the floor around it had sunk into a set of stairs. That's such a cool secret passageway. I wish Sherry was here or that I could take a picture to show her. Claire smiled at him. This whole building is full of strange secret doors or fancy statues. She went to wake the man. Marvin, I opened the way out. The man shook his head, his eyes still closed. It's too late for me. We both know how this ends. Get the kid out, leave me. Marvin. Claire knelt beside him. Please Claire. For me. Okay. Claire stood up and took Harry's hand. She walked to the stairs before turning back one final time. Oh, and Marvin. Yes. He opened his eyes and turned his head to them. Thank you for everything. With that Claire led Harry down the stairs and through the barred door. Harry watched in fascination as the steps rose and the entrance closed behind them. He would have mentioned it to Claire, but he wasn't that dumb. She was obviously sad. They found themselves in a fancy room that looked like an elaborate office. There were tables with statuettes against the walls and a big wooden desk with a cushy-looking chair behind it. Claire took the red capsule's flame rounds from a side table and the two of them went through the only other door in the secret room. It led to a service elevator that went down to a staircase. From there the only unlocked door led to what looked like a service tunnel. As they walked down, something heaved dashed across the ceiling above them. What was that? Claire asked. Who's there? Hello, she shouted. Harry shook his head. It sounded like the tyrants, but it didn't feel like anything infected with the T-virus. That left only one possibility, William or something else infected with the G-virus. He tugged Claire along by the hand. I don't think it's friendly, we should go, he exclaimed. She let RRY lead her through the tunnel into a catwalk overlooking a big room with a lot of heavy equipment in it. Claire hardly had time to goggle at the machinery as Harry kept pulling her along as if running from something. Maybe he is, Claire realized. Harry said something big overturned a train he was on and those footsteps sounded heavy. She was shaken from her thoughts by Harry stopping and letting go of her hand. The way forward was blocked by a tipped-over cabinet. Harry crawled under it while Claire tried and failed to lift it. There was another shuffle of movement from further away in the room and a little girl crouched into sight. The girl looked older than Harry by a couple years and was in a school uniform. Her blonde hair was braided back with a red headband and an expensive-looking gold locket hung from her neck. "Sherry," Harry exclaimed. "This is your friend?" Claire asked. "We can help her get out of here." The girl looked scared and it was like she was staring through Claire without really seeing her. "You need help," Sherry said in a small voice. "What?" Claire asked, a little unnerved. "You need help," Sherry repeated in a louder but shakier voice. "Behind you," Harry yelled. Claire hardly had time to turn and look before she was flung across the catwalk. What faced her was a blond man in the tatters of a lab coat. His right arm was horribly engorged and clawed. The man screamed horribly as he made to punch the ground where Claire laid. She rolled out of the way and the arm went through the floor. It grabbed the beam that was holding up that section of the catwalk and pulled it up through the floor. The section fell to the ground in the machine room Claire had been looking at earlier. The ensuing fight felt more like a desperate scramble than a fight. The part man screamed and roared while swinging the steel beam with deadly strength and speed. Claire for her part just endlessly led the thing in circles while using her guns on it. After a couple grenade launcher rounds, a massive eye opened on the freaky arm's shoulder. It was disgusting, but Claire targeted the eye with her handgun and managed to make the man stumble in pain. Blindly yelling in pain, the man stumbled backwards over a railing and into a pit. Claire sighed with relief and called up to the room that attached to the walkway where Harry and Sherry had been. "It's gone now. Can you lower the ladder?" There was the sound of footsteps and the other half of the ladder slid down so Claire could climb it. When she got to the top, Harry and Sherry were standing side by side and looking worried. "You guys okay?" Claire asked. "Yes, just scared," Sherry answered. "Can you pull the lever over here? It's stuck." Claire followed the kids into a control room and pulled the lever Sherry pointed at. "So what are you doing down here?" Claire asked Sherry as machines started moving a walkway into place. "Looking for my mom," Sherry answered. "She works at Umbrella making an import medicine, but she's always too busy for me." "What about your dad?" Claire asked. Harry glanced at Sherry, wondering if she would tell Claire that Monster had been her dad. Then again, Sherry never got a good look at the thing, so she might not know. "He worked at Umbrella too. He's gone now," Sherry answered. "Same here," Claire said. "My parents died when I was young. Now it's just me and my brother." "I'm sorry," Sherry said. "Don't be, it gives us something in common," Claire said. "What about you, Harry? I don't get why people apologize when you say your parents died." "I don't remember my parents at all. My aunt and uncle said they died from crashing their car while drinking when I was a baby. It doesn't sound like I missed much, and my aunt and uncle's family was really mean to me. Dr. Annette and Dr. William are way nicer and don't make me sleep in a cupboard or do a million chores. Even if what they do hurts me sometimes and they aren't really my parents, they still helped me." When Harry finished his rant, he turned to see both Claire and Sherry staring at him. The three of them had stopped walking and Sherry gave him a hug. "You never mentioned the cupboard before," Sherry said. "Your aunt and uncle must be bad if my parents are better than them." Claire meanwhile was trying to process all the information Harry had just dumped as if it was normal. Apparently he had been through multiple abusive or at least toxic households and was now being looked after by Sherry's parents, who sounded neglectful at best. "When we get out of here, I promise I'll find someone good to look after you and give you a proper home," Claire promised. "You deserve better, both of you." After that, things were silent as Claire led the way to a ladder that went out of a manhole cover in the RPD parking garage. The three of them ran to the exit, but it was blocked by a shutter and there was a card reader next to it. "Damn it," Claire swore before remembering the two kids present. "Don't repeat that." The kids giggled, but their happiness was cut short by a voice calling out from a side door. "Sherry, is that you? I've been looking for you everywhere." The voice was unnervingly calm and a man walked into the light. He had gray hair and a beer gut and was wearing office attire. "And you've got Harry with you too, good." The man acted friendly for a moment longer before pulling a pistol from his belt and pointing it at Claire. "On your knees, hands behind your head." "You've got to be kidding me," Claire said. The man turned and shot out the tire of a car just behind Claire and turned the gun back on her. Claire kneeled on the parking garage floor. The man tossed zip ties to Sherry and walked forward. "Tie her hands," he ordered Sherry. Why are you doing this? Sherry asked. Shut up. Tie her. When Sherry still didn't move, the man walked forward and rested the gun barrel against Claire's forehead. Okay, then, tie her hands or she dies. Sherry ran forward and grabbed the zip ties. She pulled Claire's hands down behind her back and zip-tied her wrists together. What's this all about? Claire demanded. Child endangerment for starters. The man answered. He walked up to the machine and scanned his ID card. The machine beeped and the shutter blocking the exit rose. You two, he gestured to the kids, come here. What are you gonna do to them? Claire asked. None of your business. The man said. If you hurt them, I swear. My brother is STARS. I will. Then man cut Claire off by kicking her hard in the gut. Get over here you two. He ordered. Neither of them moved, Sherry standing slightly in front of Harry. The man sighed and kneeled down next to Claire. He held her up by her hair and pointed his gun under her chin. What's your fucking name? Claire. Claire spat at the man. Sherry. Harry, come with me now or say goodbye to Claire. Fine. Harry spat and moved forward so he was in front of Sherry. You better be taking us to my mom. Cher. Y said as she followed Harry to the man's side. The man shrugged as he stood up. Absolutely, he said. Claire sat up. Don't listen to him, he's full of, she started, but the man smacked her across the face with the handle of his gun. Stop hurting her, please, Sherry said. The man grabbed her arm in his free hand and Harry in the one that held his gun. Don't tell me how to do my job. Harry too. Ned out Sherry's shouts as they were dragged away and focused his abilities on Sherry's pendant. The chain snapped and the pendant fell to the ground without the man noticing. He tuned back in time to hear Claire's shout from the garage. I'll get you, you fucker. The one with the orphanage. At least they got a clean change of clothes out of this, Harry thought as he and Sherry sat on opposite beds in a locked room. Harry had changed from his dirty white umbrella test subject outfit to his school uniform from when he stayed in the orphanage with Leon's jacket over top. He never actually went to the school but drive. Annette said it would avoid suspicion and match Sherry. Sherry was wearing an older school uniform with lighter blue shorts and no vest. Sherry classic outfit. A shadow moved under the door crack. Don't worry Sherry, this will all be over soon. Chief Irons's voice rang out from behind the door. Can't believe that bastard is the police chief. Harry muttered under his breath. There's gotta be a way out of here, Sherry said. Sherry picked up an ugly doll from the bedside table. Harry laid back on the bunk bed he was sitting on. I could force the door but the noise would bring him running and who knows what he'd do to us, Harry said dully. He heard a zipper and Sherry got up from where she was sitting. Harry watched her cross the room with a block in her hand and start fiddling with a puzzle. After a few minutes there was a click and a drawer opened from the base with a pair of scissors inside. Sherry took the scissors and cut the duct tape holding up a piece of cardboard, revealing a big hole in the wall. Harry jumped down from the bunk he was on. They never fixed this, Harry whispered to Sherry as they both crawled through the hole in the wall. Nope, they just put that cardboard up and told any adults that kids had been drawing on the walls. Sherry answered. The door to the main room was blocked by a cradle that Harry couldn't move without Mackin. A lot of noise so they continued down the hallway. The hallway was a dead end with a disused white dresser. Look, Sherry pointed at a window at the top of the wall that led to a kitchenette if Harry remembered correctly. Harry pulled out the drawers of the dresser. Climb up, I'll follow you, Harry said. Sherry climbed up the dresser and from the top she pushed the window open and climbed through. When Harry got to the top of the dresser she was dangling by her fingers from the window. He heard a thump and Sherry called up to him that it was safe. He hoisted himself over the wall and jumped, using his powers to float down to the floor. Show off, Sherry muttered with a smile. They walked through the small maze of abandoned furniture and crawled under a desk in one of the play structures. Sherry led the way out of the door and down the stairs. Sherry beelined for the front door while Harry looked around. He found a journal from one of the kids here and after briefly looking over it he pocketed it. It would make good evidence against Irons after they escape. Front door's locked, Sherry sighed. I bet he has the key, Harry said, looking at the side door. He walked to the side door and Sherry trailed close behind him. They walked down the twisting hallway and stopped in front of Irons's office door. It was open and there was classical music playing. "You can go back," Harry whispered to Sherry, "and make you face him alone." "No way," Sherry answered. "I have my abilities," Harry argued. "And I'm older, you're not going alone." Harry shrugged and entered the office. There was a long metal table with a dead woman on it. Unlike the rest of the dead in this city, the woman showed no sign of decay or movement. If it weren't for the color of her skin, it would look like she was sleeping. In the corner, a white curtain sectioned off the office that music was coming from. After a moment of staring at the curtain, Sherry made a break for the key, which was hanging in a box on the wall over a desk. Just as she was reaching for the key, the music stopped and there was a scraping as the curtain was yanked aside. "Where are ya going, Sherry?" Irons taunted as he walked over and grabbed the key. "I told you to stay put. You need to learn to listen." Irons advanced and Sherry backed into the table with the dead woman. "Time to teach some manners." Irons went to be Sherry, but one of the chemical bottles levitated from the table and smashed itself against his face. Irons howled in pain and Sherry took the opportunity to run around the table. "Go," Harry yelled. "Hide, I'll be right behind you." Sherry ran past Harry into the hallway. "You little freak," Irons roared at Harry. Irons made to grab Harry, but Harry used his abilities to throw the other two bottles at Irons. Unfortunately, they didn't have as harsh of chemicals and didn't slow Irons down as much. Seeing the writing on the wall, Harry ran after Sherry with Irons hot on his heels. He ran through the hallway and the atrium in time to see Sherry disappear into the room upstairs. He followed as Irons called out behind them, "You stupid shits, that's a dead end." Harry ran into the room and saw Sherry hiding behind a group of tables and cabinets. There wasn't room for another person to hide there. Harry floated himself up and made his hands stick to the ceiling as if he was crawling on it. Not a moment too soon, because Irons burst through the door and slammed it shut behind him. He locked the door with the key and called out, "It's all over, the door's locked." He walked over to the island of cabinets. Irons walked around it in one direction and Sherry followed, keeping the cabinets between her and the source of his flashlight. "The longer it takes to find you, the worse it's gonna be." Irons taunted and he shoved aside the big desk the two had crawled under earlier. Irons doubled back towards the entrance but stumbled halfway, bringing his hands to his face. Harry waved at Sherry and pointed at a desk that was enclosed with the opening on the other side. When Irons yelled, Sherry ran around and crouched under the desk. She was now out of Harry's view from the ceiling. And hopefully out of Irons's view as well. "It burns. It burns." Irons howled at no one in particular and ran around the furniture, not giving Sherry's desk so much as a glance. He unlocked a door on the other side of the room that turned out to lead to a bathroom and ran inside. Sherry crawled out from under the desk and Harry floated down from the ceiling. Sherry pointed at the key Irons left in the door and Harry nodded, waving at her to come to him. He summoned the key towards him and unlocked the door just as they heard Irons's voice ring out. "Where's my key?" The lights flicked on and Irons's gleeful taunt of, "I see you," reached their ears as they ran through the door. Sherry ran for the stairs while Harry jumped over the second-floor balcony and levitated straight to the front door. He unlocked it as Sherry was reaching him and he tried to push the doors open but found them chained from the outside. "What? No," Harry yelled, shoving at the doors as Irons got closer. "Nice try," Irons taunted as he ran down the stairs. "There's no way out for you." Sherry grabbed Harry's arm and pulled him to the side door. She locked it behind them but they barely had a second to sigh relief before a fire axe broke through the locked door. "I'm coming in, Sherry," Irons yelled. The two of them ran down the hallway, into Irons's office and he followed. Harry frantically levitated at the heavy and/or sharp-looking objects at the room but Irons was faster. He grabbed Sherry and lifted her off the ground. "If you use those you'll hurt your friend, you freak," Irons threatened. Suddenly Harry was blindsided by a shove from a massive hand that sent him falling again a wall and then to the floor. All the levitated objects fell to the floor with a loud series of thuds and crashes. Dazed, Harry looked up at the mutated form of Dr. William. Irons released Sherry and was immediately picked up by his face by Dr. William. Something slithered inside Irons's nose and mouth before William let him go and used the massive arm to grab Harry and Sherry. He carried them as he jumped down a trapdoor that had been behind the curtain and left them behind a small fence. He made one of his roaring screams and ran off. "Should we move?" Sherry asked. "I want to, but I don't want to make your dad mad," Harry said. So they waited in the small cement room with the pointless fence. Sherry saw T on the ground with her back against the fence, and Harry stood with his fingers hooked into the fence. After what felt like hours but was probably only a few minutes, they heard a familiar voice call out. "Sherry, Harry, are you here? Claire," they shouted together. Sherry got up, but just as Claire was reaching them, a bang sounded and a gray hulking figure walked down the hallway towards them. "It's right behind you," Sherry yelled. "Just run," Claire yelled. The three ran down the hallway William used earlier. Down multiple flights of stairs, around corners and over a catwalk towards an elevator. Harry got to the elevator first, followed by Claire and then Sherry. Claire pressed the button and the grate slid shut, but the hulking figure grabbed the grate. It started forcing the elevator open, bending the metal as it went. A huge claw suddenly pierced through the thing's stomach. "Daddy," Sherry muttered. Sure enough, William's mutated figure shook behind it as a seemingly second HEA.D pushed its way out of the mutated shoulder. The claw wrenched to the side, pulling apart the figure's torso and spraying Harry, Claire and Sherry with blood. The elevator started moving again, but Liam tossed the corpse aside and started charging at the elevator. "Daddy, no," Sherry yelled, but William jumped on the elevator, sending it hurtling downwards with them inside. The one with the sewers and Annette. Harry's ears rang as he woke up with a headache for the second time. This time he wasn't alone though. "Drive." Annette shone a light in his eyes and was speaking. He batted her hand away and rolled over. "I'm fine, drive, Annette," he said as he sat up. "Good." She stood up and walked over to Claire. "I was worried injury might destabilize the T-virus and your abilities." Annette started to examine Claire, who was also waking up. Satisfied with Claire's condition, she started examining the crashed elevator and questioning Harry. "No urges to start consuming meat?" she asked. "No, drive, Annette," Harry answered. "Who are you?" Claire tried asking Annette, but Annette ignored her. "Did you see what way William went?" Annette asked Harry. "No," Harry answered. "What is going on here?" Claire asked but was ignored again. Annette started muttering to herself and walking around the room. "Hey, what's going on? And who is William?" Claire asked. "Don't bother," Harry said. "She's not going to listen. When she's like this, nothing matters aside from what she's studying." "How do you know her?" Claire asked. "She's the one who looked after me at the lab." "Well, the main one anyways," Harry said. Annette snapped her notebook closed and walked towards a door in the wall. Claire followed her. "Hey, what's going on here? Is Sherry okay?" Claire asked again. "My daughter is none of your concern." Annette snapped back and shut the door in Claire's face and the lock clicked. "She's Sherry's mother," Claire muttered in confusion. Harry got up from the floor and leaned against a wall. "Surprised," Harry said. His voice had taken on a nasty drawl and was sneering at the closed door. "I used to think she was all right, but she never gave a shit about Sherry. The only reason she gave me the time of day was her experiments. She never actually cared." Harry sighed and the anger left his face. "Still, care with ulterior motives is still care. That's more than I ever got from my relatives." Claire really didn't like the implications of that sentence, but she focused on something else. "Are you saying you were experimented on?" Claire asked, wary of the answer. "Oh yes," Harry answered. "I can tell you about it along the way. Come on." Harry led Claire through some scaffolding to a catwalk above a cable car. "Why is there a cable car in the sewers?" Claire muttered. "It goes to the Nest, Umbrella's main lab under Raccoon City," Harry answered without looking back. He climbed up the ladder at the end of the catwalk and they came to a door with the distinct groaning coming from behind it. Claire raised her gun, but Harry just pushed the door open and used his abilities to shove all the zombies in a corner. "We don't have time for them," Harry said nonchalantly. "Drive." Annette's lab is in the Nest, and that's probably where she sent Sherry. "Did you just use telekinesis? How did you do that?" Claire asked, and Harry sighed. "I've always had strange abilities, but before the experiments they weren't as strong. I turned a mean teacher's wig blue and jumped from the ground to a roof when trying to hide from my cousin's gang," Harry said. "I can explain more while we look for Sherry." Claire nodded and followed Harry to a ledge. The jump looked a little high, especially for how short Harry was. But he just jumped over the ledge and floated to the ground like he was underwater. Claire shrugged to herself and jumped after him, ready to roll on landing so she wouldn't destroy her ankles. When she was falling, it felt like she hit a pillow and slowly sank into it until her feet touched the ground. Thanks. Claire looked up to thank Harry, but he ran over to a window nearby. Sherry. Sure enough, when Claire followed him, she saw the little girl standing in a garbage pit that the window overlooked. In front of her was a stand with a security camera, and a loudspeaker was attached to the wall. Annette's voice came over the loudspeaker. Sherry, I told you, I cannot leave here until my work is done. That's what you always say. Sherry protested. Why didn't you stay in the house? It was safe there. Annette sounded annoyed, like she was dealing with a misbehaving pet, not her daughter in the middle of an apocalypse. I was scared. Those things were everywhere and, Annette cut Sherry off. You should have called the police. That's what we taught you. I did. Sherry was starting to sound desperate. But nobody came and you didn't answer your phone, so. Annette cut her off again. Sherry, I don't have time for this. Hell kind of mom is she. Claire muttered. Aye. Sherry was breathing heavier and she fainted, falling to the dirty floor of the garbage pit. No, Harry yelled. The glass windows burst into showers of glass and he leapt through the window. He flew straight to Sherry and levitated her off the ground. Go open the way out. I'll look after her. Harry yelled up to Claire. I'll be as fast as I can, just hold on. Claire yelled back and left the window. The loudspeaker turned back on. Harry, who else is there? What are you doing here? Annette's voice rang out. The other person who's here is someone who actually gives a fuck about us. Harry yelled at her. He was so agitated he didn't notice the garbage around him and Sherry floating, and their hair and clothes were whipping like they were in a storm. The dark veins on his bod grew darker and started showing on his face, while his already reddish eyes became even redder. I thought you were different. I thought you cared, even if it was for an experiment. I let you test on me and trusted you with Sherry. You bitch. The structure with the camera collapsed inwards and the parts broke themselves until it was nothing but scrap metal and wires. The veins left his face and his eyes lightened, but the things around them didn't stop floating. Harry's anger faded to sadness and he just stood there, hugging Sherry and crying for a long time. Even after he ran out of tears, he just stood there hugging her. Eventually he heard the machine in the door turn on and mutated roars. The roars and gunshots moved further away before there was a huge crash and everything went quiet. Please let that be the sound of Claire winning, Harry muttered. After a few minutes of staring at the big doors, they opened to reveal Claire. She ran in and took Sherry into her arms. The lab with the thing that can cure her is in Nest. Harry told her. We need to get to the cable car. I know the way. Claire answered, and the two of them took off jogging through the sewers to the platform. When they got to the door of the cable car, Harry stopped. What are you waiting for? Claire called from inside the car. I don't want to go back to the Nest, Harry said. Claire walked back to the door and put her hands on Harry's shoulders. Okay, please come with us so you can take the cable car back up to meet Leon or escape if you don't see him. Okay, Harry said. He took a deep breath and stepped into the car. The ride was short. Harry paced around the back of the car while Claire draped her jacket around Sherry. When it arrived, Claire gave Harry a T-shaped crank and a chess piece foo. Say with instructions to give them to Leon so he could navigate the sewers, and left with Sherry in her arms. Harry pulled the lever to bring the cable car back up and continued his pacing. The one with Leon and Ada. Harry sat on the platform next to the cable car. The car was too claustrophobic and Harry didn't want to be anywhere near the place Annette abandoned Sherry. He idly levitated the TCR Ankh in the air and turned it over and over. Eventually there were footsteps and a familiar voice called out. Harry, is that you? Harry stood up and called the crank into his hands. Leon. He smiled. Leon was standing in front of him, wearing an RPD uniform that looked pretty dirty. He also had clean bandages wrapped around his shoulder. Harry levitated the crank over to float in front of Leon. A present from Claire. She said it would help you get through the sewers. Harry said. How are you doing that? Wait, you've seen Claire? Leon asked. I've always had powers, the experiments just enhanced them. And yes, I saw Claire. She had to go ahead to heal my friend Sherry. Leon nodded and took the crank. Let's go then. There's a friend of mine who needs help as well. We can get her and head down to the lab. We were going to the nest anyways to get a sample of something called the G-virus. Leon said as he led the way through the sewers. Harry levitated himself so he would walk above the dirty water. How do you know about the G-virus? Harry asked. Before he could answer, they arrived at the control room Harry and Claire had been in before. The pit it overlooked should have been empty, but instead there was a woman in a red dress. She was laying on the ground and it looked like a piece of garbage had stabbed her through the leg. That's her, Leon exclaimed. So Annette treats her daughter the same as someone trying to steal from her. Harry muttered. What? Leon asked, but Harry wasn't paying attention to him anymore. Instead, Harry walked over to the fuse boxes in the adjoining room. There was a handwritten diagram of what fuses go where. Harry pulled the night fuse Claire gave him and put it where it belonged. Leon looked over the diagram and frowned. Looks like the king and queen fuses are missing. Leon said. Bet Annette scattered them. Harry said. I'll get them, you stay here. Leon said. Harry was going to protest, but he decided to leave, trudging through the disgusting sewers to Leon. While he was waiting, he rearranged the fuses. Eventually flames lit the hallway, causing Harry to stand abruptly. Fortunately, it wasn't another disaster happening, it was just Leon who ran into the room. Leon held up his gun and remarked, I found a flamethrower. I can see that, Harry answered. Did you get the fuses too? Yep. Leon took the fuses out of his pocket and tossed them. Harry levitated them to their places without moving and the door unlocked. The two of them entered the area outside the big doors. Leon pulled the lever to open the doors and Harry levitated the woman out of the garbage pile. She woke up halfway and started struggling until she caught Harry's eye and he set her down. Neat trick, the woman said. Thanks, you can thank Annette for its strength. You one of her experiments? She asked. Yes, I'm M001, but you can call me Harry. Ada, the woman replied and gestured to her leg. Mind pulling this spike out of me? Hold on, Leon protested, is that safe? I have first aid spray, it'll be fine. Ada answered. While Leon patched up Ada's leg, he asked, what was that comment about Annette's daughter you said earlier? That pit that Ada was in. That's where she dumped Sherry. Sherry is my friend and her daughter. That's why the glass is broken. I flew down to Sherry and held her while we waited for Claire to open the doors. The three of them made their way to the cable car. This ride was even more tense than the one with Claire and a possibly dying Sherry had been. Ada and Leon argued for a couple minutes, but then they kissed and Ada gave Leon the wristband to enter the nest. Leon got up when the car stopped and so did Harry. Absolutely not, Leon said. I'm coming with you, Harry said. You're just a kid with the power to throw storage crates around and order the undead like they're robots. I won't stay here while you walk blindly into a death trap. Harry's glare left no room for arguments. Leon sighed and helped Ada up. I'm a liability, she protested, but Leon wasn't having it. You're a liability that can walk to a more comfortable and closer spot to rest, Leon said. The three of them entered the already open doors to nest and Harry led the way to a side door labeled patient room. Inside was a cozy but messy looking space with a bed in it. Leon set Ada down in an armchair. While Harry ran and knee slid to the figure on the bed, it was Sherry. Half of her face was covered with red, irritated skin that spiraled out from a yellow-looking eye. She was shivering despite being half under the covers and wrapped in Claire's oversized red leather jacket. What's wrong with her? Ada asked. She's infected with the G-virus, Harry answered. Claire probably went to get the antidote. I'll go find her, Leon said. I'll come with. Harry stood up from Sherry's bed. Are you sure that's a good idea? Leon looked at Ada's injury and Sherry's shivering body. I can watch out for her, Ada said. Just 'cause I got injured doesn't mean I'm completely useless. But if you don't get back before she starts attacking me, I will shoot her. Got that? Harry nodded solemnly and took Leon by the hand. They left the room and walked to where a bridge led to a central hub. A bridge started extending from the hub to the left-east area and Claire stepped around the catwalk. Claire, Leon and Harry exclaimed at the same time and jogged the last few paces towards her. Harry, Claire smiled. You found Leon. Yep, Harry said shyly. I did good, right? Yes. Claire ruffled Harry's hair. You did very good. The one with the protagonists in the nest. The antidote I need for Sherry is in a lab in the west area, but I don't have a wristband with a high enough clearance to activate that bridge, so I'm searching through the lab for a wristband with high enough clearance. Claire explained. I bet that lab has a sample of the G virus as well. Leon said. The G virus. What do you want with that? Claire asked. I met an FBI agent on the way here. She's why I'm here in the first place. She said she can use the G virus sample to prove Umbrella caused all this. Leon explained. Sounds a bit sketchy. But this whole situation is, so who am I to judge? Claire shrugged. Harry grabbed Claire and Leon's hands and pulled them towards the west area. You can stand around later. Sherry needs our help now. They followed him to the reception area and then to a lab with a wall made of glass. Near the ceiling the glass was cracked and a body in a yellow hazmat suit was held against the glass by a giant plant growth. On the body's wrist was a purple wristband. That's the level for senior staff. Harry said. How do you know? Claire asked. I lived here. Well, not here, but the nest in general. I spent a lot of time in the lab next to William and Annette's main lab. If only I didn't lose my wristband when I changed, but I never thought I'd come back. Harry shook himself. Leon wrapped an arm around Harry's shoulder and Claire led the way further into the lab. The automatic door took a couple tries to open and it wasn't hard to tell why. There were vines and branches everywhere, like they were stepping into a rainforest instead of a lab. A body wrapped in vines fell from the ceiling. It no longer looked very human. Vines were piercing its body and emanating from it every which way. There were yellow growths all over its body and its mouth was spiked like a Venus flytrap. It didn't make human noises as it reached for Claire, it made a sort of roaring croak. Claire shot a flame round from her grenade launcher at the thing and it fell to the floor, letting out horrible croaking screams as the fire caught its foliage and grew. The screams finally stopped and the fire burned itself out, leaving only a skeletal charred body surrounded by a pile of ash. A few moments of stunned silence passed until Leon spoke up. Well, I don't think that thing is getting back up. Harry nudged it with his foot and when it didn't move he shrugged. Works for me. The overgrown lab was messing with Harry. Ever since he had been injected with the T-virus he could sense other infected individuals. It seemed that extended to plants. With all the overgrowth all over the lab, its presence in his senses eclipsed all the other infected. Harry sensed one giant sense over all the labs so the smaller ones could sneak up on him. Luckily Leon and Claire had reflexes to make up for it. After discovering how much damage fire could do, Claire loaded her flame rounds and Leon pulled out his flamethrower. It was after they found a trophy with the code to unlock the lab that an idea occurred to Harry. If he could control infected humans and animals, why not plants? So when Claire and Leon went to enter the password, Harry decided to speak up. Can you guys take care of the giant plant? It's messing with my senses, so I'd rather stay in the reception area where it's safe. Harry asked. Claire and Leon glanced at each other but agreed, and while they went to make the herbicide, Harry went back to the overgrown room. Harry focused on his ability to sense the plant. He couldn't give it commands, so he just closed his eyes and willed it to grow. At first it didn't work, but then Harry tried using the energy he used to levitate things. Suddenly he could see the OUT line of the branches around the room and felt connected to the branches like an extension of his limbs. He grew the plants, then grew them into specific shapes, then he made them redirect into the ceiling and ditch branches that couldn't. The last thing he did was make it transfer some seeds to the floor near his human body with some trimmings he could grow. Harry let his control fade and realized how tired he felt. He scooped up the seeds and branches and walked to the reception room. Harry laid down on one of the couches and he must have fallen asleep. Because the next thing he knew, Leon was shaking his shoulder. Harry sat bolt upright. Immediately he noticed that the huge presents in the branches were all gone except the ones in the pocket of the jacket he was wearing. You killed it, Harry said. Leon and Claire startled and glanced at each other in surprise. Its presence is gone. Let's go get the cure for Sherry. Harry got up and led the way to the hub with the bridge controls. Claire scanned her bracelet and pushed the button. The walkway extended with a drawn-out grinding of metal against metal. With that, the three of them walked into the west area. The one with a lot of fake outs. Claire tuned the signal device and put it in the port. There was a whir and the power kicked back on, revealing a place Harry never wanted to see again. They were in a lab with open space in the middle and tables attached to the walls with various equipment on them. There was a half-glass wall on the right with a side door in the corner. On the other side of the glass was a room with a patient chair and various medical machines and equipment. Leon noticed that Harry was standing by the glass wall, staring at the room with the chair. "Is everything okay?" he asked, and Harry shook himself. "It's fine. I just never thought I would be back here," Harry answered. "Come on, that room has a door that leads deeper into William and Annette's lab." They walked through the side door. "Leon, look at this." Claire pointed at the wall around the door. "All the walls are reinforced, but the doors even more so." "That's my fault. This was my room after all," Harry spoke up. Claire and Leon turned to look at Harry. He was staring at a side table full of syringes and packaged needles. They floated up and into Harry's hands. "I'm throwing these into that endless-looking pit in the void when we get out of here," he said. Harry led the way to another side door and through a locker room. Then there was a giant room with an elevated walkway. Then a chamber that sprayed them with water and then used some kind of mist to dry them. Finally the doors opened into the main lab. There was various giant test tubes lining the wall and a closed container. Leon walked up to the container and tried to open it, but it was locked. "Damn it," he said. "Wait." Claire looked at the symbol on the case around an indent and pulled Sherry's pendant out of her pocket. She filled it over, revealing the same symbol on the back of the necklace. Claire put the pendant in the indent. There was a click and the container opened, revealing rows of clear cylinders with different colored liquid. Claire took on of the tubes of yellowish liquid labeled antiviral agent, and Leon grabbed one of the reddish ones labeled G sample. "Great," Claire said. "Now I need to get back to Sherry." Removal of a level 4 virus detected. An automated voice informed them. Self-destruct countdown initiating. Leon grabbed some of the extra supplies in the lab to share between them, and the three left the lab. It was a tense run back to where they were. They were across the elevated platform when there was an enormous crash and William's mutated form broke through the ceiling in the center of the room. Leon raised his lightning hawk magnum in one hand and pushed Harry behind him with the other. Claire raised her submachine gun. "Your ass again," Claire yelled at William. The door behind them opened and Annette limped forward. "This ends now, William," she said. Annette was holding a custom pistol with a capsule in it. She shot the gun and it splashed William with what looked like one of the acid rounds from Claire's grenade launcher. William's mutated form groaned in pain and fell to the floor, steaming. "You called this thing William, why?" Leon asked. "That thing was my husband," Annette said. She was staring at it like she couldn't believe what she did. "We developed G together, but a team of soldiers invaded the lab last night. They were after G and wanted to capture William too, but they shot him when he tried to protect himself. They shot a bunch of T samples in the process and it escaped into the sewers. When I got there, William used one of the samples of G they left behind to try to save himself from dying. I should have shot him then and there, but I couldn't bring myself to do it." "He was your husband," Claire said. "We were more married to our work than each other," Annette said with bitter amusement. "You also cared more for your work than your daughter," Harry added bitterly. "You left her to die in Raccoon City while you stayed safe in your lab." Annette glared at Harry, who glared right back. "I couldn't let my daughter grow up in a world with the G virus in it. It was safer to keep her away." "That's no excuse to..." Harry's argument was cut off. They had all been so used on their argument that they hadn't noticed mutated William getting back up. He grabbed Annette with his giant clawed arm. He had mutated to the point that his original body was gone. A giant arm burst from its back and the new head roared. It tossed Annette up in the air, then hit her into the wall. She slumped to the floor and tried to get up, gasping and holding her side. "I'll take care of this." Claire pushed the button to lower the platform. "You take care of Sherry." Claire tossed the antiviral agent to Annette, but Harry called it to his hand halfway through the air. "I'll take care of Sherry. You and Leon fight that monster, and you," Harry pointed at Annette, "stay out of it." He ran off before anyone could argue. Leon shrugged and jumped down to the lowering walkway with Claire. She loaded her weapons and so did he. "Let's do this," Leon said. They ran in opposite directions. Leon shot the big eye on its shoulder with his shotgun and yelled at it. Claire shot the eye on its back with the spark shot and held the charge button until the eye burst. It spun around to face Claire. She grabbed her grenade launcher and shot an acid round. It stumbled and Leon shot it with his flamethrower. They continued trading its attention and taking easy shots as its mutated eyes get redder. Finally stumbled to the ground, bleeding and leaking green from its eyes, and didn't get back up. "Let's get back to Annette. She may not be a great person but I hope she's not dead," Claire said. They took the lift on the side up to the platform where Annette was sitting and rushed to her side. "That looks pretty bad," Claire said. "Feels worse, believe me," Annette answered. Then she looked at Leon. "Please just tell me you'll destroy that G sample you took." Leon shook his head in surprise. "What? No, I have to give this to Ada as evidence." "You trust that bitch?" Annette coughed wetly. "What's that supposed to mean?" Leon asked. "She's not FBI, Annette explained. She's a mercenary, one of multiple sent to get G. She's gonna sell it to the highest bidder." "She wouldn't do that," Leon protested. "I hope you're right," Annette mumbled. "Please take care of Sherry. Tell her I'm sorry for everything." She pulled the chip out of her wristband and held it out to Claire, who took it. Annette's arm fell limply to the ground and she closed her eyes as she trailed off. Claire and Leon sat back. "Are you going to believe her?" Claire asked. Leon sighed. "I don't want to, but if I'm wrong a lot of damage could be done. If she is FBI, Harry should be able to testify against Umbrella, and his DNA is probably messed up enough to prove he's not lying." Claire reasoned. "You're right," Leon said. He stood up and helped Claire up. They walked back through the lab into the central hub. Ada was at the central terminal with Harry and Sherry behind her. She pulled out a gun-like scanner and held it to the computer screen that displayed access denied. After a few moments the alert disappeared and elevator door opened with a "access granted" from the computer. "If I wasn't convinced she was a spy before, I am now," Claire muttered. "Leon," Ada called when she spotted them. "And you must be Claire. Harry and Sherry both asked about you." Claire jogged to Sherry's side but Leon hung back. "Did you get the virus?" Ada asked. "I got it," Leon said. "Great. Give it to me, so I can verify it and we can get out of here." Ada held out her hand. "Before that, I ran into Annette. She claims you're not FBI," Leon said. Ada dropped her hand to the side and shook her head. She sighed and quick as lightning she grabbed the pistol from her shoulder holster and pointed it at Leon. "Oh Leon, why couldn't you just hand over the sample?" Ada said. Leon pulled his pistol as well and pointed it at Ada. "Because I realized as much as I wanted to trust you, I couldn't," Leon answered. Claire had Sherry in the elevator already but Harry stayed standing behind Ada. He floated the syringes and needles out of his pocket. Harry looked at Leon's belt where the sample was and then back to the syringes. He had seen what it did to William, but the T-virus had acted different with him, so why not G? Even if it wasn't different, he would still be saving others. He could just dive into the self-destructing lab if he started mutating. The scientists had taken his blood or injected him with things so many times. He watched them prepare the needles. The packaging tore away from all the needles and they assembled themselves with the syringes. No, Claire must have realized what he was doing. She ran towards Harry but he made her freeze in place. Ada and Leon turned to look at Harry as he made the G sample fly out of Leon's pocket. It loaded into one of the syringes. While Harry it Leon's jacket off his shoulders so his arm was accessible. Harry injected the sample into his arm. The other syringes and needles fell out of the air and Harry threw the used one after them. "Now no one gets that sample," he said as he collapsed. Leon and Ada lowered their guns and Claire ran to his side. His faint red veins turned black and his eyes got redder but nothing else happened. The WALK way shuddered and explosions could be heard. Claire wrapped Leon's coat back around Harry and picked him up. "Let's get out of here. We can argue about motivations when we all make it out alive," Claire said. She entered the elevator with Leon and Ada behind her and it started going down. The one with the survivors. Is Harry going to be okay? Sherry asked. I mean the T-virus didn't hurt him. Like it did others, so maybe the G won't either. He isn't mutating like the other Gs. Ada said. That's a good sign. Claire and Leon stared at her, surprised by her softness. Before they could say anything, the elevator arrived. Claire pulled her submachine gun off her belt and handed it to Ada along with the pouch she had the ammo for it in. You should have something better than a pistol, and I can't fight while carrying Harry. Claire said. Ada nodded at her. Thanks. Leon and Ada took the lead, taking down any infected monsters in their path. Claire holding Harry and Sherry followed the as they all ran down a bunch of halls and walkways. At one point there was a locked door that Sherry crawled through the vents to open for them, much to Claire's chagrin. Finally they reached a platform with a train on it. They ran for it and found a battery inside. Claire put Harry down and told Sherry to stay put. I'm going to get this train running. Stay here and don't move unless I come in and say it's safe. Claire said. She left Leon and Ada to look after the kids and took the battery to the control room. Claire noticed a Gatling gun on the table after she plugged in the battery and pulled the lever. Might as well. Claire grabbed the Gatling gun and ran onto the train platform as it started lowering. Suddenly a giant, barely recognizable as an even more mutated William, jumped down the elevator shaft and onto the train car. Why can't you just die already? Claire yelled at it. It roared and left off the train car after her. She dodged and brought the Gatling gun up to meet it. Inside the train car, Ada, Leon, Sherry and Harry heard the massive crash as the mutated G jumped on the train roof. A muffled roar sounded. Sounds like Claire could use some help. Leon said. Agreed. Ada and Leon got up and ran to the train door. You two stay here, stay safe. Leon called to Sherry as they left. Sherry stayed sitting on the ground, holding Harry's hand while the sounds of fighting circled outside. Gunshots and roaring punctuated by the occasional crash and lurching feeling as the platform sunk faster than intended from the creature's weight. Eventually Harry stirred. What's going on? Harry asked as he woke up. We're escaping. Claire, Leon and Ada are fighting the thing outside. I'll go help them. Harry stood up. They said to stay put. Sherry protested. And you don't have a gun. I have powers. You should stay here. Harry walked through the door and down the steps while Sherry stayed watching from the doorway. Claire's Gatling gun stopped firing. Shish. He knew it couldn't have infinite ammo, but it was still scary hearing the empty clicks. She threw it aside and grabbed her pistol. They were in a bad shape. Leon's flamethrower had run out and he was due WN to his last few shotgun shells, and Ada's submachine gun was almost out as well. The creature advanced on her as she was reloading and raised an arm to strike. Something small launched itself at incredible speed from behind her. It had big wicked-looking claws, and inhuman feet must be how it moved so fast but was otherwise human. It took her a second to recognize the gray hair and white shirt. It was Harry. He clawed at the eyes on the creature's belly. It howled and tried to throw him off, but he was too fast. Harry easily dodged its claws. He ripped its arms off at the root and went CK to tearing out its belly until it was nothing but a puddle of guts, blood and pus. Stay down, fucker. He snarled and gave it one last stomp with his clawed foot. None of the adults knew what to do. Obviously he was mutating, but he was still sentient. He could turn on them at any moment now that he was done with the thing that used to be William. Ada and Claire raised their guns as Harry turned to look at Leon. Leon, get out of there. Claire yelled. He might attack you. Leon and Harry made eye contact, staring cautiously at each other. Slowly Leon telegraphed his movements and put his gun on the ground while Harry watched. He stood up and held his hands in the air without taking his eyes off of Harry's. I won't hurt you. Harry sniffed and ran to Leon to hug him. He hurried his FACE in Leon's bulletproof vest as best he could and cried. I'm sorry. Harry sobbed. I just wanted to help. Leon kneeled down to Harry's level so he could hug him properly. Leon held the 7-year-old's head as Harry cried into his shoulder. It's okay. None of this is your fault. Leon consoled him. They stayed like that for a moment until Leon realized there was steam rising from Harry's hands and feet. As he watched, the mutated skin and muscle melted away, revealing Harry's human form underneath. When it was all gone, he picked Harry up into his arms. The kid had cried himself to sleep. Let's get on that train. Leon said. Yeah, William definitely isn't getting back up this time. Claire kicked a stray piece of viscera. He's melting too, but there doesn't seem to be any human body underneath. Indeed, by the time they were climbing the stairs to the car, the only thing left of William was a quickly disappearing puddle of blood. Epilogue. Harry threatens the government. She what? Jill exclaimed at Harry. It was a few days after Raccoon City was destroyed by the government to end the outbreak. Claire, Leon, Sherry, Ada and Harry had been picked up by rescue personnel outside of the city and delivered into government custody. Ada had broken out and disappeared immediately, but the other four faced the music. When Harry caught wind of the fact that they were planning on blackmailing Leon and Claire and experimenting on him and Sherry, he threw a fit. A terrifying fit that resulted in several injured and a whole base taken over by a plant grown from one of the Plant 43 samples he kept. After that, they relented to his demands and negotiated properly. It was decided that Sherry and Claire would be let go while Leon would become an agent and supervise control Harry to make sure Harry didn't try to rebel against the government. Claire officially adopted Sherry and Leon adopted Harry. After a few days, they ran into Jill and Carlos at a shelter for people who lost their homes in Raccoon City. The 6 survivors were now at a cafe together, trading stories. Carlos shook his head. I suspected from the way you talked about them they were neglectful, but that he fuck throws their own daughter in the fucking dump. Jill said, viciously stabbing a piece of egg with her fork. Language. Leon reminded. There are children here. Children who grew up with adults who had no problem swearing. Harry said with a smile. See, he says it's fine. Jill gestured to Harry. If you hadn't got there first, I totally would have adopted him. Already want kids, super cop. Carlos teased and Jill pointed her fork at him. Don't talk to me or my hypothetical son ever again. You might get your wish for a bit anyways. Leon said gloomily. What do you mean? Jill asked. They're sending me to the military to be trained. Leon said. I'd be grateful if you guys could look after him while I'm gone. You're trustworthy. Hey, Claire protested. What am I, chopped liver? You already have one kid. Leon pointed out. Don't get greedy. They all laughed. Art for this story. I did the art myself. I would say don't steal, but it's really not worth stealing. Still don't steal. It's bad art, but it's my bad art.